Tarantino claims he's only making 10 movies. But here's the thing. He's been involved in way more films than people realize. Tarantino secretly rewrote a blockbuster, punched up a military thriller, and even tried saving one of the worst comedies ever made. These are the 6 movies you had no idea he worked on. Michael Bay takes a lot of heat. Critics love to drag him for his over-the-top action, hyper-stylized visuals, and explosions on top of explosions. But here's the funny thing. Those same things get called genius when Tarantino does them. Bay once said Tarantino called him after seeing an article titled, "Is Michael Bay the Devil?" He said, "Don't worry, last year they called me the Antichrist." The Rock. That's Bay at his absolute best, and maybe not so coincidentally, the one Tarantino worked on. Nicolas Cage plays a chemist. Sean Connery plays an ex-British intelligence agent. Together, they have to break into Alcatraz and stop a rogue military officer from launching chemical weapons at San Francisco. Made for $75 million, pulled in $335 million worldwide. Massive hit. Still one of Bay's best. And buried in there, Tarantino's uncredited script work. He confirmed it. Other sources backed it up, but you'd never guess just by watching. Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez go way back. Before they teamed up for Grindhouse, before all the campy B-movie madness, they worked together on 4 Rooms. This one's an anthology comedy. Tim Roth plays a bellhop who stumbles into 4 wild, over-the-top situations on his first night at a hotel. Tarantino writes the final chapter, The Man from Hollywood, where he also plays a loud, eccentric, self-absorbed director. Basically himself. Even Roger Ebert pointed that out. The cast is stacked. Bruce Willis, Marisa Tomei, Kathy Griffin, and even Madonna, who, by the way, won a Razzie for this one. The whole thing is peak 90s indie Hollywood, post-Pulp Fiction Tarantino, hanging out with his filmmaker friends, doing whatever they wanted. Past Midnight is as by-the-numbers as crime thrillers get. Straight to TV, Cape Fear wannabe, nothing fancy, nothing groundbreaking. But it does have one thing going for it, Tarantino's first ever screen credit. His real first film was Lost in a Fire, but this 1991 thriller has his name on it as an associate producer, thanks to him helping rewrite the script. Does it feel like a Tarantino film? Not even close. It's got Rutger Hauer as Ben Jordan, a parolee who swears he was falsely imprisoned for his wife's murder. Solid setup, but in a decade stacked with better thrillers, this one just doesn't stand out. It's just another forgettable TV thriller with Tarantino's name buried in the credits. After Wayne's World blew up, the 90s went all in on Saturday Night Live movies. Some decent, some forgettable, and then there's It's Pat. Nobody even argues about this one. Worst of the bunch. Released in 1994, starring Julia Sweeney, and based on a character that should have never left a 5-minute sketch. One joke, ambiguous gender, and it wasn't funny then, let alone stretched out for an entire movie. And somehow, some of the blame lands on Tarantino. Same year he dropped Pulp Fiction, he was apparently helping rewrite this mess. Sweeney confirmed it, and so did Tarantino himself. Nobody even knows which parts of this disaster Tarantino actually worked on. But technically, this is his one attempt at a full-blown comedy. Tony Scott had 2 scripts in front of him in the early 90s. He left Reservoir Dogs for Tarantino to direct himself, took the other one and made True Romance. And it's exactly what the title promises, a crime thriller that somehow also works as one of the best love stories of the decade. 2 nobodies stumble into a whole lot of contraband, and before they know it, they're running for their lives. The cast alone is insane. Christian Slater, Dennis Hopper, Val Kilmer, Brad Pitt, Gary Oldman, Christopher Walken, James Gandolfini, Samuel L. Jackson. This was the first of 2 times Tony Scott worked with Tarantino, and out of everything Tarantino's written but not directed, True Romance feels closest to his own films. Second time Tarantino teamed up with Tony Scott, and just like before, the 2 delivered. On paper, Crimson Tide seems like the last place you'd expect Tarantino's touch. 1995. military thriller, submarine standoff over a possible nuclear launch. But he did work on it, rewrote some dialogue, helped tighten things up. The movie stars Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington as two officers on a nuclear sub who clash over whether to launch their weapons. Nobody really knows which lines Tarantino actually wrote, but it doesn't matter. Washington sells every single one.